so proud of the robotic equipment that sorts and of their crew and what they represent in terms of our department. Now, not everybody. That's true. There's elementary teachers who hate their job. I know. I have some. You are angry at kids all the time. I don't think there's any exceptions. I don't think there's any human activities that there's not somebody who absolutely just enjoys the day. People that take pride as a ministry in making things clean and arranging their they do it with such to we gotta get to that. It's not an area where Christianity has emphasized the spiritual nature of our tasks as much as some other spirituality, especially Zen-Buddhism, which draws from Taoism. This one's the key, wonderful to be with you again. Let's pray, and we'll be running away. In us, we seem to want something to change or to be different or to not change. We never will. Pray that somehow, as we navigate the inside part of us, that we can do that in a manner that is truly spiritual. In Jesus' name. I'm going to make a statement, and it's not out of place, but it's drawn directly from, it's more from my curriculum when I teach ethics courses. But I don't think that Christian spirituality or the spirituality of Jesus could possibly ever not do business with this concept. Okay, I'm going to make a bold statement. The ultimate evil is thingification of a person. The ultimate evil is thingification of a person. That means to treat a person as an object, as a thing. We quite naturally, we quite culturally, each of us, typically see a person as a toy or a tool. It's either something to help us get our project taken care of or to play with. Even the people that we care the most for, our closest friends, the people that we love the most, our romantic interests, our life partners, our children, our parents, even our grandparents, although maybe less so. But still, when we look at somebody and regard them, we have thoughts and intentions, or pictures or videos that play in our mind and our imagination. When we look at people, it's quite typical that we're looking at somebody, imagining what it would be like to play with that person, or how we can use that person to accomplish something. Whether that is to get gain, doesn't mean like get money necessarily, but that's one way to get gain. You can gain in the race to be who's the coolest, who's the most powerful, who's the most socially influential or liar or whatever. But we either to get gain or to get pleasure or something like that. When you look at another person, that's just an automatic. And it's very hard to change that. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what kind of religious or spiritual post to which you have been appointed. It doesn't matter whether you're in a bar or you're in a gym or you're in church. You can be in church, you can get up from prayer and look at somebody and imagine having some use for that person, that, having a use for the person, whether it's to play with them or to use them as equipment. And I believe not only is that the ultimate evil, but ultimately that's what evil amounts to. It's one way to look at what is evil. Now, when I say person also, because I use the term ultimate, I'm going to say that it is evil to do that to any sentient creature. Whether it's a cat or anything else that's alive. Dog. We're, I think, as spiritual creatures, we're actually able to transcend sort of that natural reflex.
Did you say unification class it as evil?
I'm saying it is evil. I'm saying it's bad. Malo, kakos, that's Greek. I'm not saying kaka, plural.
You're saying using animals is also evil. What about like a horse? Because you do see that horse as a, like, especially in the past, like to take you from one place to another. Is that also evil?
Yeah, I think it is. It doesn't mean that there aren't creatures who love to work with us. And people that we like to partner with. I was a canine officer, and there's nothing in the universe that Samson liked to do more than go to work. And have me turn on the fancy noisemaker on the roof of the car. He just shook with adrenaline. He just loved it. He whined in pleasure. It was better than being fed. He'd rather do that than breathe. There was nothing but that dog liked better than putting on his gear and going to work. Oh, that was good living. When I saw him, I didn't see a flashlight or a patrol car or a pair of handcuffs. I saw a friend. But to the degree that I utilized and saw him as equipment, I was doing evil. I love my wife too. But it's a lifelong journey in marriage to move away from thignifying even the person you love the most. It's difficult. I love my children too. But when they do things that make it look like my wife and I were great parents, I would like to put it on Facebook. But when they do things that don't fit our PR objectives, then we're kind of, it affects our feelings about it. It affects, we like to think it, we like to pretend that it doesn't, but it does. People that say that it doesn't, that this is not true. Obviously our affection is impacted by how they affect our project. To that degree, we're thinkifying our kids. If I took my kids someplace in public, as a pastor with little kids, you take them to church, it's anybody's guess what they might say. And these are these are the pastor's kids. One friend of mine had a son, and he was pastoring the Yuma, Arizona church. And he had a son that was just a character. And he was a wild card. He would say or do just about anything. He was always a good guy, but he had a bleak way of saying things to always blow everybody's mind. So here he comes into this new church. He's just transferred into the conference. He's from another conference. And he doesn't really know the people. So he's maybe preached on one Sabbath and then it's prayer meeting time that week. And he's out saying goodbye to people in the lobby. And his son found the microphone on. And there were lots of people that were still like in the way to get to him and snag the microphone from him or to get to the sound booth upstairs. And he got that microphone and just started having a wonderful time. And he's telling about his family and the things that they do and everything. And the people in the church are very interested in this little insight into their new pastor's family. And finally, when his dad reached him, he saw his dad coming as fast as he could. He said, "Steve, come on down. It's your turn. The price is right." And we grabbed it from him. The next Sabbath was communion, and they were in the lobby, and the pastor shaking hands, and having a Sabbath sister. And then somebody comes and waits until he has seen 3 or 4 more people and pulling his pursuit. I don't know. I don't know if it bothers you or not, but your son was like 3.5 or 4. But your son is going from pew to pew, licking the last little bit of grape juice out of each. So there's no way when that kind of stuff happens that doesn't, in a moment, you go into what are people going to think about me, or you can easily make that your priority temporarily instead of what is the very best experience for the child I'm raising, or for this little guy that I love. And it's very difficult to help that. When my first Sabbath pastoring at the PUC church, I was sitting in the, which direction is it now, the fireside room, and there was fellowship lunch, and I was just making my way through some of those nasty string games when people just open it up and pour a can of mushroom soup on it and don't even heat it up and pour salt in or anything. I was trying to keep a nice face, and somebody said, "Pastor, is it okay that your son's on the roof?" I said, see, he was 9 at the time. I said, which one? Like the sanctuary or the Sabbath school or the youth chapel? The youth chapel. I said, oh, he's not even on the sanctuary roof. Probably by next week he'll find the sanctuary roof. Yeah, he climbs. Is that okay with you? Oh, absolutely. As long as he doesn't fall. If he falls, that's not okay. But that took work to not go into PR mode, you know. There's a reason why when we look at other people, we see a resource or a toy. And one of our spiritual tasks is to address that one way or another. In Christianity, at least, and more so in the religion of Jesus and in the spirituality of Jesus than in the religion or spirituality of Christianity as it has come down to us. Those inside things. Where does man look? Where do human beings look when they evaluate a person? According to the Bible. On the outside. Man looks on the outward appearance, but God looks on the heart. You did it again. Say first. We have a hard time shifting our focus in our religion to the heart, because the religion is kind of something that we do together, and spirituality is kind of something that we do one at a time. Religion doesn't have access to my insides. My church cannot see inside of me, but my God can. So when I speak of things that are spirituality, I'm actually doing business not with the end result that comes out. I'm doing business with the inside part, and that's going to affect what comes out. But my focus when I talk about my spirituality is on places that a lot of times it's not actually even polite to talk about sometimes. I mean, it makes people uncomfortable if you talk about all the dimensions of your inner thought life. If your thought life just got put on YouTube right now and you couldn't stop the streaming, how would that go? And all your friends got the address texted to them, and all your enemies, and all the people in whatever church you come from, and the whole student body, and it was also being live streamed on the big screen in the dining rooms, like 24/7, and then during colloquy and vespers, it's up on the screen. Even if the program's going, it's still whatever you got going on in here is up there. I mean, the whole bit. Is there anybody that would go, well, no, there's some of that I'd rather edit before that went out? You know? Or if you knew it was happening, would you use some sort of cool neurofeedback techniques to change it? I mean, would that provide you the neurofeedback that was needed so that you'd go, oh, don't think about that? Because if it would, if you knew that was happening, and then you realize, shoot, if I picture it or say it in my mind, it's getting broadcast. So one aspect of spirituality is the recognition that it is. That the one person that you might most want to impress is watching and listening to the whole inside part. Now there's an idea. So if that's true, you know, in Adventist eschatology, in telling the story of what's going to happen at the end of the world as we know it, Adventists actually believe that during the 1,000 years after Jesus comes, we're not like embodied physically on this earth. We're whatever and wherever heaven is, we're there for 1,000 years. And during that 1,000 years, the record of anything and everything that has occurred from the creation of humanity to the present is available for people to search, like microfilmed or in the cloud or whatever. But not just your deeds. The part that was going on inside. So it's like if you know good and well that people can look at your internet history. There's some things if you go, wait a minute, I can't edit this internet history. You go up and you try to clear the history because what was I looking at? Oh, clear that history. It won't let you. You go, it's not even my computer. And they know who had it. work computer and you're just not thinking. You go, ah, man, you click a few things and you go, oh my gosh, I'm not home. Well, what if that's true of your mind? Here's your insurance policy. It's mutual assured destruction because everyone else's is open too. It's like, bring it, let's look at yours. That'll be an interesting thing, but you know, it'll be the hardest for people who misrepresent and who are dishonest about what's on the inside. The people who are like right out there going, hey, I told you that all along. The people who are going, oh, not me. That's the people that are like going, if I wasn't already dead and resurrected, I'd kill myself here if everyone's seeing this. No, it's the people that make it to heaven and got some sense of whatever. It's all come out now. I'm here. I don't know what it means, but I'm here. I don't know how I got here exactly, but I'm here. But if your inner reality was something we could all just browse, and if people were all viewing, would it be handled any differently than it's handled right now? In Mark chapter 10, I found something in a painful way. I found something. I had just finished the Sheriff's Academy in Pittsburgh, here in the East Bay, and was just online in the Martinez jail because every new deputy sheriff in Contra Costa County, their first tour of duty is in detention. And you work all aspects of detention. Doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter how you got hired. Your first job, at least for like, if you have a 4-day work week, at least 3 days a week, part of the time, they will put you on patrol on the last day of your weekly rotation. So once you finish the Sheriff's Academy, then you have to go through state jail ops certification so that you can be a certified custody officer. And then you go right to work in the Martinez facility, which is the hardcore one. And I had never worked in anything like that in all my existence. When I was a sheriff's deputy in Gila County, Arizona, we had a little jail at our substation. It had 3 cells, and it's kind of like on the old Andy Griffith show, Mayberry. It's like, let yourself in, Otis. He's running. It was like there would be somebody who was having to serve evenings and weekends, but was allowed to go out in the day. There's that kind of work release kind of a thing, and like half of the deputies would be somebody who went to kindergarten through high school with the person, So they're coming in and they go, hey, I'm going to go stop at the diner and get some dinner. You want me to get you? And that's how they fed them. They didn't have a food service. The deputies just get them takeout for them and just live with their buddies. And they really didn't have a kitchen. They would literally go to a restaurant and get them stuff. And I had my turn just working a shift or two watching these guys. But in the Martinez jail is a hardcore facility, and they were not just 3 cells. It was like sometimes every 15 minutes there would be a fight call, and you have to respond to a fight call. And you get there, and someone's already sprayed pepper, and you're holding one eye open, trying to do business and not get shanked. And I had not seen anything like this. So within the first couple of weeks, I got put for the next couple of weeks working the back door, working into where all the police agencies, including the Sheriff's Department, brought their people that got arrested, drove in the sound port, and then they come in and they give them to you, and then it's your problem. They say, okay, give me back my handcuffs, here's my paperwork for the arrest, I'm back on patrol, and then you've got Joe Citizen there to deal with. And So I got put down there for a couple of weeks, and people are coming in, and when they're first coming in, they get cleared by psych and they get cleared by medical, and if they're not in a condition to take a shower, we have to give them a shower, and you take their clothes and give them your orange clothes, gold clothes in that facility, but they're a lot of times they're stoned or they're drunk or they needed the police dog to help them so they got like gauze from the emergency room, stitch it up because they get like their calf ripped from the dog or their arms got holes in it, and they're upset. And a lot of times, as soon as the handcuffs come off, then the fight is on. So five deputies stop that and safety chair, wheel them into a place to calm down. The whole thing was just blowing my mind. And within days, the amount of hurt and suffering and tragedy that was presented was weighing me down more and more and more. I was seeing people that needed something more than what I could give them. Granted, society needed for us to hang on to them for a little while, but that they needed something more than what I was allowed as a sheriff's deputy to give them. I couldn't counsel them, I couldn't minister to them. I needed to just take care of their immediate needs and get them someplace where they could go to sleep it off. One person, just right at the end of one shift, Martinez Police Department brought a young guy in, he was 18 or 19. And I think his brain had been so damaged by so many drugs, probably before he was even born. He was about 5'6" or 5'7" and probably weighed 70 pounds. And he had no fat on his body. They found him laying like with just his head under a bush in the park in Martinez in the middle of the night, just freezing. And he had bugs on him. He had ants and stuff, pill bugs and stuff in his nappy little short afro. And his skin, he didn't respond to anything we say. He just had a blank stare. He couldn't even, when you look, it's like there's nobody home when you look in his eyes. I don't know what he was on. Probably a lot of things. But when I showered him, his skin was so chalky that even though he had a fairly dark black skin, the chalkiness made his skin whiter than mine. Because he had no oils coming out of his skin. And every place that his body hadn't opened was oozing with pus. He was so infected by so much, and I was trying to get the insects out of his hair. I'm trying to find someone who's got the right kind of comb, because they give these kits to people. I don't know if they still do. It's been how many years? 11 years since I left that sheriff's department. But they've given what they call a fish kit, and it had a toothpaste and a little halfway toothbrush and a ball pencil and a comb and a single little safety razor or so. But the comb is a little, it's a little this long, a little tight. You can't do an afro with that comb. You can't even do my hair when it was growing up with it. If you had straight hair, it would be just fine. So they were very, very racially sensitive, obviously. So I'm trying to find a pick so I can get the bugs out of his hair. I'm trying to talk with him, and it just looking at him, just standing there shivering, sort of, like when you scare an animal and it can't escape. It just broke my heart. On the way driving home, I I was asking myself if I'm going to be able to survive doing this emotionally, am I going to be able to stand to do this for years? And I was praying on the way home, and when I went to bed, I had this sick feeling in my stomach and all these pictures of him in my mind and different people that came having the worst day of their life, and I was saying to myself, how am I going to be able to do this as a cop? I'm not allowed to minister. I'm not allowed to do what is in my heart and in my training and in my career. I'm a pastor. How am I to function as a minister when I can't even tell these people anything spiritual? Can't say anything. And I can't pray with them. And so that morning, I got up several hours before I needed to go drive for my shift, which was going to start at 1 in the afternoon. And I took my Bible and went in behind my house is a hot tub, and the forest is around it. And I sat in the hot tub, and I was praying and holding my Bible, and I just said, I've got to find something so that I can feel like I'm doing some good for people, not just keeping them from hurting other people, but somehow I got to have some way to be of some help. And in flipping through the Gospels, because I had determined I wanted to see if there's any clue in Jesus' example of relating to other people. Is there anything that I could do that would be appropriate that I see Jesus doing? And it came to Mark 10. And in Mark 10, there's a guy that's very different than the young man that I was encountering the night before. Very different kind of young man, but another young man came to Jesus, and just in an instant, having seen the story before, I realized that those two young men were actually very similar. They were actually very similar. Even though the young man in Mark 10 was extremely wealthy, and even though he wasn't taking drugs and wrecking his material success, and he wasn't found stoned out of his mind in the park after his head under a bush in Martinez. He came to Jesus recognizing some sort of need. When he came to Jesus, now I'm going to paraphrase a little bit, but you check it out and you make sure that I haven't perverted the text. Check and you hold me accountable to make sure that I don't misrepresent what was occurring in trying to put it into contemporary language. He came to Jesus and said, what would I need to do to have? Now, in the English translations, that I've always seen, it always says, what do I have to do to have eternal life? So what I always thought that meant is, what do I have to do so I don't go to hell? I don't want to be damned. I want to keep going instead of being destroyed with the wicked. What do I do to escape damnation? But then I realized in rereading it, that's not what he was asking. It says to Jesus, zoon ionia. The Greek word doesn't actually mean to just keep going in time and never end. Like eternal life, like we think of, I'm not going to just live to be 70, I'm not going to just live to be 700, I'm not going to just live to be 7,000, I'm going to live to be infinity years old. That's the way I think most of us think of it. But that term doesn't actually mean that. The term itself, and I have extensively researched the term in not just in the Bible, but in all the places it occurs in the Bible, but also in surveys of literature of the time and for several hundred years before in Greek. And it's a very pregnant, important term that is referring to something that is not just not ending, but something that embodies infinity. In other words, Jesus is doing things, and this man and the rest of the community are hearing about these things. It's like if somebody came to town almost doing magic. It's like if you go find somebody who's always been blind because they don't even have eyeballs. And you all know it. It's a small town. And then a man comes and just touches that person and touches this person and touches this person, and boom, 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 stuff is happening. This is somebody who, he doesn't need a boat. He can just walk out in the water. Somebody who can just take the lunch pail and just keep the, yes.
What was the word that you used for?
In the Greek, infinity living. I said zoon, I have to look at what the form is, but the root itself is from ion, or ionios, which actually means not the never ending, but it means the out of, with more dimensions. Like getting into the zone of infinity. Like what was Jesus drawing on? Being able to reach through the veil and bring stuff that's from out there in here. The word is pregnant with metaphysics in the Greek and to the Greek mind. It's just pregnant with stuff that's otherworldly. And Jesus was doing stuff like that. This guy was a really successful dude. As a young person, this person had the golden ticket. This person's album went platinum. This person had his Super Bowl ring. This person was the one that everybody wanted to date. He had enormous bank accounts, and in that day, had it been in this day, he had Ferraris, many Ferraris, and lots of swimming pools at his estate. He was rich. He knew how to play the game. So he said, what do I have to do to have this infinity life, infinity living, to get, tap in? Jesus said, well, keep the commandments, do the right thing that you're supposed to according to our religion. He said, I've done that. I do that. I've done that all my life, even as a child. I've never been into not doing that. And Jesus actually mentioned, or they in their conversation mentioned several commandments. There's one commandment they did not mention, that's for sure. There's one commandment that we don't mention. No one's ever going to get kicked out of the church if they live in open violation or even make their living breaking. What don't even, I mean, they could be the head elder or the conference president. It doesn't make any difference. If they'll only stick to violating what might be the most important commandment, that's all right. You just can't check them out anyway. You can't tell. You can't tell. So he said, yeah, I did all that. And Jesus was like, so you're all set, right? No, wait a minute. To get that stuff together going. What do I do to get to the next level? What do I do to scratch the itch that we all like to, but you can't find out where it is. You can just feel it. To be able to do those great things that we do, to be able to see with your kind of perspective, to break through our little flatland existence. What would I need to do? And Jesus said something really strange to the man. He said, you need to, all of your stuff, you need to get rid of it all and give it to the poor. All of it, everything. And the man said, all of you know, my people talk to your people. He went away. So it's like, oh, okay. You went away sad. So see, he went away sad because he had a lot of stuff. Now, if the dude had nothing, if we found him in the park, homeless, and all he had was some mongrel dog that had found him, and that's it, and Jesus said, you got to give away all your money. I'm there. But he was winning the game. It was just getting good. He was winning. You don't give up when you're winning. You don't just, okay, here's the poor, so I can follow this other dude who also has nothing. Another homeless guy. I'll follow you into the park, Jesus. Maybe we could sleep behind a bus depot or something. We'll ponder and come back to that part, but there's something hidden in there. There's something hidden in there because, and it varies how it gets translated. But I'm going to translate it as I read it from the Greek. And you can see it still in there. It said, earlier in the conversation, it said, Jesus looked at him and loved him. Now, you don't have to say in your narrative, when you're just talking about conversation with somebody, he looked at us. That really added a lot to the story, huh? And Jesus loves everybody. But I don't really think it was wasted words. I think it was the key. It was the key. When man looks at somebody, man looks at the outward appearance. But here was God looking the way God looks. Looked at him. And then it said, not as a preposition or an adjective or an adverb. Well, you didn't look at him lovingly. That's not. It was a full-on verb. A full-fledged, card-carrying verb. Loved him. Looked at him. That means when Jesus looks, I think he saw inside. And after